Hey Lit Set, it's Jasmine.
Hey Lit Set, it's Nikea, and this is Black Girl Lit,
the podcast. We're a podcast now, guys.
Where black girls are lit,
we get lit,
and we read lit.
This is Black Girl Lit, the podcast.
Hey Lit Set, it's Nikea here with another quick lit for you all. We are supposed to be recording the episode this week for The Other Americans, but this is the first physical book that both of us have had to read in a long time. So yeah, we're struggling. I'm going to be doing something a little different for this quick lit. I'm actually going to be discussing two books because they are both on similar topics. So the books that I will be discussing, I read them on audiobook. The first one is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson, and the second one is The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. And today I'm actually sipping on a little something. I have some Malibu rum, pineapple juice, orange juice, and a splash of triple sec. I haven't even tasted it yet. Ooh, that smells like an island, or tastes like an island vacation. And this is our Black Girl Lit tumbler. You can keep warm and cold drinks in here. So just go to our website. This is blackgirllit.com to get you one, okay? It's lit. So I wanted to change it up this time and do these two books, like I said, because they're very similar and they're both about characters and by authors from the LGBTQIA plus community. I am not a part of that community, but I will consider myself an ally of that community. So these books really sparked interest in me. All Boys Aren't Blue is a book that has been talked about for a while. Even though it just came out this year, I've seen a lot of like advertisement for it before I actually read it. What actually made me read it was my uncle had the hard copy at his house, and he said it was written by one of his frat brothers. And I had heard about the book and I was like, oh, I didn't know he was your frat brother. So that sparked my interest. Let's just get into the thick of it all. I don't know if this episode is going to be longer because there's two books, but I'm going to try to be very concise in discussing these two books by these authors. Dean Atta is a British poet of Greek, Cypriot, and Caribbean descent. He has been listed by the Independent newspaper as one of the 100 most influential LGBT people in the United Kingdom. In 2012, his poem, I Am Nobody's Nigger, written in response to the use of the racial slur by the murders of Stephen Lawrence, achieved much social media coverage, and he was profiled in The Guardian. Born to a Greek mother and a Jamaican father, he earned a BA degree in philosophy and English from the University of Sussex, where he was president of the African Caribbean Society. His poetry, which often deals with questions of identity and social justice, has been featured on BBC Radio 4, and he has been commissioned to write for museums and galleries. In 2018, Atta served as a judge for the BBC Young Writers Award. In 2019, Atta's verse novel, The Black Flamingo, was published by Hachette UK. For The Black Flamingo, Atta was one of the two winners of the Stonewall Book Award 2020 in the Children's and Young Adult category. Dean is from the UK. His novel is loosely or somewhat based on his life. The main character is loosely based on him, what I'm assuming these things. Just from reading his bio and reading the novel. And it is a novel in verse. And I actually listened to it. But going back looking at reviews, there are pictures in the actual novel. So I feel like I need to go back and reread it to see the pictures. George M. Johnson is a writer and activist based in New York. They have written on race, gender, sex, and culture for Essence, The Advocate, BuzzFeed News, Teen Vogue, and more than 40 other national publications. George has appeared on BuzzFeed's AM to DM as well as MSNBC. All Boys Aren't Blue is their debut and was an Amazon best-selling book of the year, an indie bestseller, a People magazine best book of the year, and optioned for television by Gabrielle Union. The New York Times called it an exuberant, unapologetic memoir infused with a deep but clear-eyed love for its subjects. At the time of publication, George used he, him pronouns. So that's their bio from the website. So George, at the time when he... these pronouns are tripping me up. At the time when the book was published, George was referred to as he, him. Currently, George is now being referred to as they, them. So I'm going to do my best to respect those pronouns. Any slip up is completely an accident because before I read the book, I did not know that. So I referred to George as he, him. But in this podcast, I will refer to George as they, them. I did not see anything where Dean had a preference for pronouns. So I will refer to Dean as he, him. Now let's get into the book synopsis. Like I said, we're discussing two different books because they're on similar topics. They float around in the same universe. So Dean's book, The Black Flamingo, is fiction. It's in verse. At first, I've been adverse to novels in verse, but listening to it was very easy. Yes, Dean does read this novel on the audiobook. I love when the author actually reads their novels because it can like give you the feel of their novels. But anywho, back to the book. It's about a young boy named Michael who is of Cypriot and Jamaican descent. So his mother is Greek and his father is Jamaican. And he's growing up in the UK. And basically, for me, this novel was about his blossoming and his growth as a young man and as someone a part of the LGBTQIA plus community. And in my review on Goodreads, I said this was my first time reading something like this. It was just beautiful to see a story. I know I'm just like mixing all segments of our podcast, but it was just beautiful to see a story of this young man he's grappling with his identity as being half Cypriot and Jamaican, and also grappling with this identity, not even grappling, or just trying to discover who he is in his own sexuality, who he is as just a person, who he is as a man, how he chooses to represent himself. And it's also a story of his drag journey, like what is that about, and him discovering this whole other, I guess, world or section within the community that he is in. And then we have All Boys Aren't Blue, which is a memoir and a manifesto, as George calls it, based on their life. So it's not based on their life, it is their life, telling stories of childhood all the way up to adulthood. And in George's story, they are in a family full of love, full of acceptance, and a lot of the hate that he gets is from outside of his family. Forgive me for using he. George's family is their safe place, is their home where they can feel comfortable. It's also a place where they are feel free to discover themselves. And George's story is more than about coming out or being gay. It is a journey of discovery of a person, like who they are, who they want to become, who they are becoming, who they're going to be. Both of these stories really resonated with me. That is the synopsis of those two novels. And now I'm going to talk about my initial reactions, which I've kind of intertwined into the synopsis. For my reactions, again, like I said, I listened to this, and both of the authors actually read their own books, so that was a good thing. Because like I said, when the authors read their book, you can really get like the tone and how something is intended to be read and to be understood. So I appreciated that. The Black Flamingo, I read that before I read All Boys Aren't Blue. So for the Black Flamingo, I was sucked in. I was intrigued the entire time. I was intrigued because it was someone from the UK who is, well, if they were in America, this person would be considered black because of their skin tone. And not even looked at for like any other combination or anything like that. And it's interesting to see the black experience in another country, and even from Dean's main character Michael, how he is just constantly grappling with identity in its many forms and being labeled and put in boxes and things of that nature. From All Boys Aren't Blue, that book put me through so many emotions. I laughed, I cried, I cringed, I was in shock at times to know that this was the experience of a black person in America, and especially in the gay community, because to be black in America is one thing, but to be black and gay is a whole nother thing in and of itself, especially in the black community, where you are raised as a black man, you're raised to be strong and tough and the provider, and not to be emotional. And that's where the topic of toxic masculinity comes in. And I think that really ties in with the title of George's book, All Boys Aren't Blue, because in society we have given the color pink for girls and blue for boys. But that title is just like, it shatters all of that. All boys are not blue, and that's okay. But yeah, those are my initial reactions. Now I'm going to get into major scenes and topics. So I don't remember specific scenes because I listened to this back in July. Major topics to me that stood out, specifically in All Boys Aren't Blue, is toxic masculinity, gender identity, brotherhood, family, black joy. In the Black Flamingo, also gender. I think those topics are very similar, like gender identity, family, racial identity, cultural identity, and self-acceptance was another thing in the Black Flamingo, and defining yourself and the journey of growth. The books are very similar in the sense that both of the main characters, well, George isn't a character, an actual person, both of the main characters are trying to discover who they are, going on a journey of like accepting who they are. I think the major difference is that George in their memoir dealt with a lot of physical taunting, abuse from kids at school. There's a scene where George gets their teeth kicked out as a young child. Michael in the Black Flamingo, he dealt with taunting and teasing, but nothing as overt as what George was dealing with. And not to say that one is worse than the other, because both are just terrible. Like, no one should be treated that way for who they are and being themselves. I think the interesting part of the Black Flamingo was when Michael actually became a part of the drag community. And for me, the drag community is like so interesting and intriguing, because I don't know, for me, if you do drag, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gay. And if you do drag, it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to be the opposite sex. You just like to perform as that. It's a, you know, it's a thing, a performance. It's a job for some. It's a hobby. But this was a place where in the novel, Michael could actually be himself and identify and be free. And I like the title The Black Flamingo because Black flamingos, they're a thing, but they're actually rare. And Michael, I feel like in himself, he's rare because he has all these identities that he's trying to like kind of compartmentalize and deal with, and then feel like he just accepts himself for like all the things that he is. And I think that that story speaks to everybody. I think every person in this world has multiple identities or boxes that they could check off, but it's not until we actually just accept ourselves and all of our multifacetedness that we can like be our full selves and be okay with ourselves. It's okay to be, in Michael's case, he was Greek and Jamaican, and he lived in the UK, and he was gay, and he is a part of the drag community. You can be all of those things. I don't think that you have to choose. As far as George's story goes, I appreciate the rawness and the realness of the scenes. George did not try to hide anything from the reader, did not try to keep anything from them or sugarcoat anything, and it's real and it's raw. And for me, just the overall story from All Boys Aren't Blue is just, it's more than just George coming out and being gay or identifying as gay. It's about him, it was about George becoming a person, growing, and the journey of self-discovery and growth. And that's what both of these stories really were about, and that's why, you know, they resonated with me. I guess to wrap up the major scenes and topics, for me, it was important to read this book because, as I mentioned before, I'm personally am not a part of the LGBTQIA plus community, but I have friends and I have family members who are a part of that community. So for me, the way that I learn is to read and consume knowledge. And although one story is fiction and one is memoir, it just gave me a glimpse into that world and helped me to understand people in that community a little bit more. It also made me question like my stereotypes, my prejudices about people in that community. And I think that's a good thing, that I can consume something that will make me question myself and my own actions, and how can I do better and be a better person and affect change for people in this, you know, marginalized community. I just think it's important that you realize that people in the LGBTQIA plus community, they're people, you know, and they deserve everything and every right that a person has. Nothing should be kept from them just because of who they are or who they choose to love. Not to get too deep and political up here, but you know, love is love. You have no heaven or hell to put anybody in. So me, I embrace those in the LGBTQIA plus community, even though I don't understand and don't claim to understand and know everything about the community and all those different people and how they live their lives. But they're, like I said, they're people, and these novels help me to see that everyone is living a life of self-discovery, of growth. We're all on a journey to get to our final destinations, to become our full and true selves. All right, I know I'm waxing deep a little bit on y'all. The last segment, the reason why you came here, we're going to rate that book. As you saw on Jazz's Quick Lit, we have added to our rating scale. We have sober, buzzed, tipsy, faded, and lit. So faded is the new one that we added. So now it's a 5-point rating scale. For some reason, for me, faded, when I was thinking of faded, I think of, you know, smoking a little weed, you know? I don't know if y'all ever drank something and smoked something. You get a little bit faded, 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 money, I'm faded, 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 but that's right before you get lit, because you be like, because there's always that phase right before you get too lit where you just like a little, and all of a sudden it's like, Okay, so I have 2 books. I have 2 ratings. I don't think y'all will be surprised. Both of these books are lit to me. I've expressed how I felt about these books in the major scenes and topics and in initial reactions. I love both of these novels. Both of these writers, these authors are amazing. They wrote so eloquently. I will probably go back and read these novels again, and I definitely think these are novels that I need to buy. My camera battery died. I don't remember what I was saying. But yes, I love these 2 novels. Definitely read them, listen to them. Oh yeah, I said these are novels that I definitely feel like I will go buy the physical copies so I can see them, take notes and stuff like that. And definitely books that I would revisit. They are worth it. Such a good read. I'm not gonna say easy. It was quick because it was so attention grabbing. I think I read both of these books. Each of them I read in like a day or 2, or listened to them in like a day or 2. But yeah, All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson and The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta are Black Girl Lit approved. That's all I have for you today, Lit Set, on this Quick Lit. Before you go, make sure you follow us on Instagram at blackgirllit_, and you can email us at blackgirllityt@gmail.com. Visit our website, thisisblackgirllit.com, to purchase some merch. Be on the lookout for updates. But yeah, that's all I have for today. Nothing else for the good of the order. I think I did good without Jazz today. We're getting better at this Quick Lit thing. And as always, stay Black Girl Lit. Bye. That's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. Leave us a 5-star rating and a top-notch review to get us to the top review page on iTunes. And be sure to follow us and listen on SoundCloud.